You see, whenever I lived in Washington, D.C., I worked for this church plant, and it seemed like our church went up against nothing but mountains. And we started meeting in a second floor conference room area on the second floor of a Marriott hotel in the Navy Yard in the middle of Washington, D.C. And we actually had the 3 conference rooms all together, and so we were able to fit, I want to say it was like 120 chairs in there. But from the get-go, we had to move to 2 services. And so then very shortly after that, we were at 3 services. And it was like, man, this is crazy. Like we've got to figure out something. And nobody wanted to rent their building to us. Nobody wanted to do that because we're a church, and so we don't produce taxable income or taxable revenue, and so they didn't want to rent to us. And so we just prayed. We were like, God, we want you to do this. We want you to do this thing. And what was crazy was we had several people. There was this tire shop that was kind of cruddy looking, kind of worn down, that was in our neighborhood, and we had several people that told us, you're going to get this tire shop. And we talked to him several times. He wasn't interested in selling. He wasn't interested in moving out and renting it to us or anything like that. And so we were like, okay, you know what? We're gonna figure it out. And so we kept praying. We're like, God, if we can't get the tire shop, give us some place here in our neighborhood where people, they're not gonna have to go far. Because when you're a church, you get established in this area. If all of a sudden this church was like no more and we said, hey, we're still having church, you'd be like, okay, but I'm used to going here. I don't know where else I'm going. Okay, and a church plant is it's even worse because you're brand new and people are barely learning where you're at. And so then you have to go and find wherever you're gonna move to. And you do your best to let people know through social media or things like that. But one day, I remembered my lead pastor went and he put on a suit and tie, which was not something he typically wore. And he was gonna go door to door to all these different businesses just to see if anybody would be willing to rent. And we'd been praying as a staff for God to open up a spot. And it was impossible because nobody was willing to rent to us. And so the first place that Zach went to was this boxing gym that was right on the corner of the same building that the hotel was on. It was on the ground floor. And he walks in and he's like, hey, could I talk to the owner? And the manager comes out and he's like, hey, I'm the manager. I rent this place. And he goes, well, hey, I just wanted to see if there was any possibility you might be moving out soon or whatever. And he goes, nope, we're not moving out. We're never moving out. This is a great location. All of our people are coming here. This is awesome, blah, blah, blah. Not even a month later, he was packing up his stuff and moving out. Now, I don't know what happened. I don't know if he just wasn't paying his bills. I don't know if there was people not paying their boxing memberships or what was going on, but he moved out. And as soon as we found out that he was moving out, Zach immediately called up the building owner and said, hey, would you be willing to rent this small space to us? And he said, sure, what do I care? And so he basically named his price, which was a really large price that really was not fair, wasn't good, like it wasn't a good deal, but we jumped at the chance because we knew that God had provided the spot for us. And not only that, but then God provided the next building, the next commercial space attached to that first floor to move out. And then the next space was a dry cleaner, and it moved out. And then the next space was actually the front door of an apartment building, so they didn't move out. But it was... But we got all 3 of these spaces connected that we were able to have our church service in, and a children's ministry, and room for small groups, and all of these different things worked out. And then, a couple years later, the tire shop sold to us as well. And it was this crazy thing where when you see, you don't know how God's going to do something, that's the mustard seed. You're like, I don't know how you're going to accomplish this, but I know you will. It may not be how I envision it, but I know you're going to do this.